Good morning, and good morning to
Morning.
everybody watching us. Good morning to Gary Bremermann, somebody who everybody knows, I believe, everybody who is in Tokyo or who has been here for a while or maybe is thinking of moving into Tokyo or into Japan. But I don't want to really say too many words about Gary because he's very well known by most of the people watching this podcast. Let me say that Gary is, one of the most, well, let's say the recruiters with the highest integrity here in this beautiful city. And yes, so he has been here for quite a while. And today we're going to talk about something very up to date, let's say, something that is really urgent because we now live in well, let's say in times when technology is developing at exponential speed. And of course, we already know that many people have been laid off because of technology. I'm not just saying because of AI, because it's not only AI, right? A lot of other stuff is going on as well. But also, we have seen companies that have actually went back and rehired many of those people who they laid off earlier. And of course, today we want to talk about ways of future-proofing your career. And Gary is here to help us look into this topic, well, deeply and with a lot of understanding. So if you're somebody who is thinking of changing your job, or you see that there will be a lot of changing down the road, I think this podcast is for you. And Gary, welcome and thank you so very much for your time.
Thanks for having me back again. It's good to be here. Yeah. Thanks
It's a
very much.
pleasure to have you, always. Yes,
Yeah.
thanks a
So,
lot.
yeah, I have stories for you. You had reached out to me about coming back to the podcast and asked me, what might be a good topic that we could talk about. And as the day approached, the universe has been sending me signals as to what the topic is. I've been very obsessed with the topic of future proofing your career. Um, I wear two hats. I'm a recruiter of marketing professionals, and now I'm positioned as recruiter of future proof marketing leaders, because those are the types of people that my clients want to hire. And I'm also a career coach. So I do career coaching for bilingual professionals in Japan, cross industry, across professional specialization. So I spend a lot of my time thinking about the future. And I was so glad for you to have me on here, because it helps me have a conversation with you about what's possibly coming. Nobody knows. Nobody has the answer. And I find myself on some days in a deep state of anxiety or panic about what's possible. And then
Mm,
on other days of the week, I'm very optimistic and excited about what's ahead. And I think many people, if you're paying attention, probably go through that kind of the pendulum of hope and despair when you
yeah.
think about what's happening in the job market. So thanks for having me today.
Yeah, very much so. And thank you very much for making the time. And so I have had a lot of conversations during the past 1 year because because of what you just mentioned. I mean, the exponential advancement, let's say, or developments in technology, and well, how companies actually see these developments, right? Some corporations, they jump immediately on the opportunity to cut costs. And we know what it means in many of the cases. It means reducing the work power of the company, right? And we, of course, have seen a lot of layoffs. I would venture and say that this doesn't happen so much here in Japan as it does in, let's say, in North America. But still, even here, I think that it's inevitable for everybody to accept, or we have to accept the reality that technology will eventually restructure the way we work. And it will probably restructure the way we find jobs, but also what we do at our workplace, right? And once again, many people are concerned that, of course, first of all, we don't know exactly what will come, because that's the essence of the time. But at the same time, there should be something that we should be able to do, so that, of course, we are somewhat prepared for all those roller coaster changes in the workforce, also the labor market, and so on. And maybe we can start from here, because at the moment, what are the skills you see being replaced, or the skills that people need, so that they will be secure in their jobs?
It's good. It's a good question. And before I get into that, I want to reemphasize the point that you made is there's so much uncertainty and nobody really knows where things are headed. And you can look for a viewpoint about AI is going to replace half of the jobs or all of the jobs or everyone's job is threatened by AI or the advance of technology. Again, not just AI, to AI is a tool that will enhance our working lives, and there will be abundance and plentiful jobs and new jobs created. Um, there are some people who think it's different this time, that generative AI now moving very rapidly towards AGI, so where it's real human intelligence, that is a huge threat to the working people on the planet.
Mm,
One nice thing about Japan is it's generally slower to adapt to change. Labor laws are stricter here, so it's harder to let people go. Um, but it is possible to completely shut a company down. So recently, it was in the news that DoorDash's company in Japan that goes by the brand name Wolt, originally a Finnish company, that they're going to shut down their Japan operations. Now, of course, there's a high cost involved with that, and people will be taken care of as they shut down the company. But it's entirely possible that you could be a very talented, capable, high producing worker, and your job disappears unexpectedly. So these things are happening. I mentioned to you prior to doing this call about the block. So
right.
what happened to me last week? For those of you who subscribe to my newsletter, the Happy Mondays weekly, I talked about how within a 24-hour period, two things happened. And on the evening of Thursday last week, I had a dinner with recruitment leaders in Japan. And it's a group of people that a friend of mine leads and brings together. And we talk about business and share ideas and opinions. And we had all these, interesting, smart people at the table. And again, we had this spectrum from very optimistic to complete doomerism, where one person said, our industry is doomed. No one's going to need recruiters because people will just be connected to jobs by Claude bot or,
Mm,
agentic AI. And then you had someone on the opposite end of the spectrum said, nobody can replace us because of the human element of what we do. I tend to lean towards the optimistic side, but with heavy reservations, and to be aware that things may change quickly in terms of how people are recruited for jobs. But I think today we're talking more about what jobs will exist
mm,
and what people should be doing. Um, the second thing that happened the next morning, I woke up and I checked the news, and a company called Block, which is the CEO is Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, very wealthy person. They made the decision to cut their workforce, global workforce, from 10,000 to 6,000 immediately.
right. That's
40% reduction in workforce, huge. And in that message, it's very interesting. You can go find it on Twitter or X. His handle is @Jack. And he says, company's doing fine. We're profitable. We're growing. We just realized we don't need all these people. And it's just brutal because I'm sure the competition to get hired by any of the Block family of companies, they're the parent company of Square, among other tech companies. You're probably an A player, and immediately your job is gone, and you're now out on the market with lots of other talented, capable people. So that all happened in a 24-hour period, and that, then the panic meter goes up, and first it's my industry of recruitment. I think my career coaching has longevity because a lot of people are going to need to talk to a human about what to do with their lives.
Right.
Um, but it's really interesting times. And so when you ask me, what are the skills that people need to develop, or what are the employers looking for? I tell people, control what you can control.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in my module on interviewing, I talk about, in an interview, control what you can control. Be prepared, know everything you can about the company, do mock interviews. But you can't control it if the interview has a bias that doesn't like the way you look, or your pronunciation, or has already picked someone that they want to take the job. You can't control those things, but the things you can control, put effort into what you can control. So I brought a prop today, by the way. I have a prop. This is a tripod. Okay.
Right.
So it's a tripod. And you need all three legs of the tripod to be strong and stable and generally of equal length for the tripod to be useful, for whatever you're using it for. And so I see three areas where you should focus on. One of them is skills. So you asked me particularly about skills.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
the other one is visibility. The second one is visibility. And the third one is mindset. So the things I say to people is control what you can control. And here are three areas to focus on, to upgrade in each area, to continually strengthen those three areas. So in terms of skills, you're seeing where even 3 years ago, people were saying, be a coder, learn how to code. There'll be tons of
Yeah.
jobs for coders. Jobs for coders are still growing. They're still needed, but they're threatened by the
Mm.
Claude code, all the different LLMs' ability to write code. And now it's shifting more towards being able to uh, QC, and keep in mind, this is not my specialty area. This is what I understand is that there's less need for just a basic coding and more need for being able to read the code, understand, look for bugs, make sure it's of high quality, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. So even in the last few years, that advice of learn how to code has shifted somewhat. I still believe you should learn how to code, and you should pick the codes that are most relevant. And
Right.
again, I'm not an expert on that, but everyone talks about Python as it's a fundamental coding language to understand. So you may not be coding, but with the knowledge of coding, you will have an advantage, or you will understand what the AI is doing, and
Right.
that gives you an advantage in the job market. As an example, another area that I think is really important is data literacy. And this has really changed. I'm an old dog. I've been around the block many times, and the the weighted importance of data literacy just continues to expand. And in my days, I took a graduate level stats class, and that was it.
Right.
I think it was called quantitative analysis, QA. And now
Mm.
the depth of training that people in the same school get is probably 10 times.
Mm. Mm.
And they're coming out of that school with incredibly strong quantitative analytical skills. Um, so those are kind of the basic fundamentals. But there are also soft skills. And this is something that I see in people who lean towards being highly technical but lack soft skills. Um, and it's things like, for example, presentation skills. Absolutely essential is negotiation skills. Everything is a negotiation. And we don't get properly trained on the fundamentals of negotiation, and people fail to take the time and energy to train themselves. Um, so negotiation, persuasion, which is adjacent to negotiation, um, and then sales, the fundamentals of sales, and sales is I guess would be a subset of persuasion. Um, Although it's more than just persuading someone, it's having a deep knowledge of whatever it is you're trying to sell and being able to listen to people. So it's hard skills and soft skills, and all of that, all of those things are things that you can work on by yourself. You can take e-learning courses. It's just amazing what we have at our fingertips. I spend a lot of time in school these days. I attend YouTube University, so I'm constantly learning from videos. If there's something I want to learn, I go straight to YouTube, and it's late at night, and I'll sit on my couch and I'll watch a 15-minute YouTube video to at least give me an explainer about something that I want to learn about. So we're very lucky that we have access to the ability to skill up, and you can learn on the job, you can learn from a mentor, but we can learn skills. Then the key is, what skills do you as an individual need to learn and focus on?
Right.
So it's called a job market, and you asked specifically that question: what are employers demanding? You need to look at what employers are demanding, or where the demand is at, and then look inside yourself to see if that's aligned with your strengths and your interests and your values, and then skill up in those things that you would enjoy doing, that there's a market for.
Right.
Not just things that you would enjoy doing, because that's what a hobby is. Um, so if it's about jobs and getting paid well, think of what those skills are that you need to learn. So being selective about what you invest your time in learning is important as well. And then one more thing on the topic of upgrading your skills is, there's a really good free course on Coursera, the online learning platform, Coursera.com, and it's called Learning How to Learn.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it helps you learn better, so that instead of spending 3 hours to learn something, you can spend 1 hour. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fairly involved course, but it's a really good course to take. And then another skill upgrade that I think is really important, or is relevant to a lot of people, is project management. So being able to manage projects. I often recommend that people look into the project management professional certification, the PMP. And I think it's the Project Management Institute that oversees that exam. And I tell people, even if they're not a project manager, having learned those skills helps you achieve in whatever it is that you're doing, because so much of what we do is it's a project,
Yeah.
projects and projects. So there's so much you can do to learn, and that's just one leg of the pillar, or of the tripod.
Okay.
I went on kind of long there, but I'm very passionate about that. About, we have such a great opportunity to skill up.
Yes, I agree with you. And I have noticed also that many people, particularly on LinkedIn, are not good at communications, because you mentioned negotiation, persuasion, right? And all these are communication skills. And I also hear people who say, I'm an introvert and I have difficulty communicating with people, let alone persuade somebody to do something for me, right? So, and it's always difficult to give advice to such people, because, yeah, I mean, introverts, it's a psychological thing for them, right? The struggle is real there. Do you have any advice for them, for people like that? Because they also need to find jobs, right? They
Yes.
need to go to interviews and be persuasive and try to make the best out of everything, all the opportunities they get?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that relates to the second leg of the tripod, which is visibility, especially with LinkedIn. But before I get into that, there's a great book that I recommend to people, and it's
Mm-hmm.
by Daniel Pink, and it's called, I have it around here somewhere. I think it's Everybody Sells.
All right.
And it's really easy to read, and it's full of stories. Um, but he helps you understand that I mentioned earlier, everything's a negotiation or everything's negotiable, or that, as my daughter was growing up, I always told her, Maya-chan, learn how to sell. You'll always have a job,
Right.
um, whether she listens to me or not. But the getting over the sales allergy is also linked to introversion, because people think that salespeople are extroverts. The research shows that the most effective salespeople are what Daniel Pink calls ambiverts. So
Mm.
they're kind of, they swing across the spectrum from introversion to extroversion. And you had a guest on your podcast last week, I believe it was, and he talked about being an introvert that forced himself or made the effort to become more comfortable in public situations and build his network. And I'm actually an introvert. I consider myself an introvert, and I love talking to people. I love going out. I love meeting people. My job is talking to people. But as an introvert, if I have a bunch of meetings in a day, or I'm always out there, I need to be alone for a while and decompress. So you
Right.
you
Yes.
can be an introvert and be effective. And
Mm.
part of the motivation is to achieve. You have to put yourself out there. You have to get out of your comfort zone. But you can be an introvert and enjoy. And I think your guest recently, last week, I think it was, he said the same thing, that he can be out there, and then he needs time to
Yeah.
decompress or be alone. So
Mm.
it's okay if you're an introvert. You can learn things, and now with LinkedIn, you don't have to go to networking events. You don't have to make small talk. Um, and this is the part about visibility. Being visible on LinkedIn is put some effort into your LinkedIn
Mm.
profile, so that people like me as a recruiter will find you on LinkedIn and offer you a job. It's pretty low effort. You're not reaching out to me. I'm finding you and saying, oh, I see your work experience is relevant to a job I'm working on. If you're not on LinkedIn, or if you have a poor profile, I may not reach out to you. But if you spend an hour or two in upgrading your LinkedIn profile, you may the jobs find you, um,
Right.
especially if you're building the skills that are in demand. Um, and then on the topic of visibility, it's being visible within your company. So being recognized for the work you do and the value you add. Some people are humble and quiet, and are not letting people know, or are not getting credit for the work that they do. So learning how to show your boss what you've achieved.
Mm-hmm.
Your overbearing, overly expecting boss. Well, actually, boss, this is what I've done in the last 6 months. Um, and then being visible in your industry or your professional specialization. So if you attend industry events, or you connect with other people in your industry through associations or whatever, online or offline, um, and then things like LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn's the premium online space where you can control your visibility, and you can put keywords in there that will help recruiters find you. So visibility is that second leg of the tripod.
Right. Going back to what you said about being an introvert, because I went through the same process as well. I sometimes wonder whether being an introvert is actually an advantage, Because from the people I know, like Lee, for example, and you, I believe, introverts are better inclined to listen to what the other people say, to be active listeners. And we know that with those who talk a lot, with extroverts, that's not always the case. So I'm not trying to generalize, of course, because everybody is different. But have you noticed a tendency there that basically being an introvert could really work to your advantage if you try to develop also the extrovert skill as well?
Yes. So one of my favorite quotes is by Greek philosopher, excuse me, Epictetus, who said, "We have two ears and one mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak."
Mm.
And in recruitment and in career coaching, the ability to listen to others is so essential. And people have this image of recruiters, especially, as being big talkers,
Oh,
always
okay.
talking, always
Mm.
selling, always pushing a job without listening to what the other person is saying about what they want. So they're overselling a job because they're under a lot of pressure to fill a job. And so they're totally focused on selling, um, but not eliciting criteria from the other person as to what they're actually looking for or what's important to them. For some people, it's money. For other people, it's security,
Mm.
or it's a shorter commute. So being able to listen to what the other person has to say as a salesperson, because recruiting is a type of sales, uh, helps you to learn what are the things that how you could present an opportunity to buy, because you're buying a job as
Mm.
a candidate. Um, Listening is so essential. I'll stop there so I'm not talking too much.
No, no, that's fascinating. And sometimes, well, in the past couple of years, because you said you are buying a job, right? And sometimes I think it's a kind of a ticklish matter to talk about, but it happens. I always, sorry, I want to hear you about this. Who is actually buying the job? Is that the employee? Is the employer saying a job? Or because at the end of the day, I have sometimes thought, based on experiences during the past couple of years, that once an employee secures a job, then the roles change. Like then the employee is basically selling their skills to their boss. And there is that dynamic there. I don't know whether this is right or not. And once again, it's a ticklish topic. But what is your view on this?
So at the moment, and things may change again as was the increase of adaptation of AI and other technologies. But at the moment, it's the sellers. The power equation is on the side of the talented candidate. So the
Okay.
talented candidate will have multiple job offers to choose from, and the employer should be persuading the candidate uh, ethically to choose them. But
Mm.
in many cases, and this is a holdover from 50 years ago, the employers always think that they're in a stronger position
Mm-hmm.
and that the candidate is lucky just to be breathing the same air as they are in some cases,
Mm-hmm.
or especially well-known companies. We're ABC company, and we're so famous, and you're lucky to be sitting in this room with me. And it's changed, especially smaller, medium-sized companies who are competing for talent with big, famous companies that may pay more. Um, but in the case of employment, there are two buyers. So it's not like an inanimate object. Here's a coffee cup. Isn't that beautiful? Would you like to buy it? You're the buyer.
Mm.
In the case of recruitment, it's a candidate and employer, employee, employer. They both have to say yes. And
Right.
sometimes it's yes, no, or yes, no, or yes, yes, or no, no. So there's two humans involved in the equation, which makes it a lot harder.
Right.
Um, but still, at the moment, I think the talented, especially in the bilingual market, a talented bilingual professional has options, and so they're generally the shopper.
Right. Yes. Right. Now it's interesting because the dynamic, it is a dynamic, and it's not always the same thing, right? And my point was that, well, basically, once somebody secures a job, I still believe that they have to sell their skills even then to the employer. And I do agree that because of the labor market, they still are in a better position than the employer, right? Because they can get offers for other jobs at any time. But still, even then, there is, it's not, the whole power is not in the employee.
Correct. Yeah. And now in these days too, with more uncertainty, that it's shifting back. Power is
Mm,
shifting back to employers. We've seen over the last couple years the wave of layoffs at Google and Microsoft and Netflix. And I work in the marketing sector, and I work with marketing services agencies and brand driven companies. And right now, it's kind of a bloodbath in marketing
mm,
services agencies where and AI is one component of it, but they got bloated and now they're having mergers and acquisitions. And so job security is decreasing in that sector, and they will inevitably be laying people off, um,
mm,
and have been quietly. Of course, they like to do it quietly. Um, so it's a shifting. I keep waving my hand, like all these things it's a pendulum. Um, but it does goes back to control what you can control. So if you
right.
are upskilling, if you're increasing your visibility, if you're known for something, if you're like, oh, you should talk to Hiroki, he's a master project manager, and you get this kind of whisper effect, and all of a sudden, you're on people's radars. Uh,
Hmm.
and that holds true in recruitment because I'm always asking other people about who do you know who's good at this. Um,
Right.
I'm doing a search now for a senior role in related to PR and integrated marketing, and
Mm,
it's a really small pool of talent. So I'm out in the market asking people, who do you know who has this unique skill set? And it's word of mouth. And if you've increased your visibility, if you have a network out there,
mm,
your friends are going to say, oh, you should talk to my friend, so and so. And I
right.
actually met someone yesterday that was a referral from someone that I probably wouldn't have reached out to him. He's a terrible LinkedIn profile, didn't know him, wasn't on my radar, but he was
Mm,
recommended. Um, so that goes back to the, leg two of the tripod is the visibility. Um,
right.
did I answer your question, or did I just ramble
Yes,
about
you did.
everything I
No,
wanted to
no, you
ramble
did.
about?
Yeah, because I think it is an important point because everything changes once again. It changes constantly, and we cannot sit there and be content with what we have at the moment. So, being very attentive to the trends and also to the undercurrents is very important because sometimes the undercurrents are not visible on the surface, right? And it's difficult to prepare for that. That is
Yeah,
something
and
that we
and
need to.
especially now when nobody knows what's going to happen, and now that it's threatening white collar jobs, that future proofing yourself in the age of AI, it's really AI is more threatening to white collar jobs. Although if you add robotics into it, AI, directed robotics,
Hmm.
um, that will impact more blue collar labor, but it's the white collar jobs are more at threat at the moment from AI. And the jobs that are most at threat are kind of repetitive things you could automate. Um, I talked about the erosion of value is if 50% of the things that you do can be automated, then you need
Mm,
to replace that with something of high value. And the high value things are the human skills, the people relationships. Um, we're fortunate in Japan that you're going to have to help me out here. Is it high context culture, um,
yes,
where trust and reading the room is so important, you know,
yes.
kuki oyomu.
Cookie,
Um,
yes.
yeah. And AI can't smell the room or read the room. Um, so those things and the relationships still matter here, and people still want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. Um, Although that's eroding a bit. The younger generations just want to talk to machines, um, generally speaking. So things are changing. And so being on top of things, like you said, is being perceptive of what's happening. So I have another story for you. And this happened last year. So the thing that happened last week really, kicked me into high gear on the future proofing topic. But last year, a very senior, very experienced, very talented, accomplished um, marketing professional reached out to me. He's on the agency side, marketing services agency. Hey, Gary, can we get on a Zoom call? We get on a call. And he says, yeah, well, I just found out that my division that I lead is being shut down.
Oh,
And I'm being asked to go over to another division within the company. And that division is basically 80% dependent on AI driven creative production.
oh,
And I'm being asked to lead this team of, AI specialists and creative production, specialists, computer aided, creative production. And he says to me straight up, he says, Gary, I don't know anything about AI and I'm not interested.
oh, oh, wow.
True story. And I'll never name names or where, he'll
Right.
never be identified.
That's
Um,
surprising. Yeah.
and, and I said to him, I said, you can tell me anything. Thanks for sharing that with me. You can say anything to me. I'll never repeat it connected to you. I just repeated
Right.
it, not connected to you. Um, but my sincere advice to you is don't say what you just said to your current employer or any potential future employer,
Mm,
and consider investing the time and energy into learning at the high level as as a leader, and a very accomplished manager, team manager. But you need, as a future proof marketing leader, you need to understand how AI can be
yeah.
deployed in your marketing operations. You don't need to be a prompt engineer. You don't need to be a data scientist. But if you're in a leadership position, you at least need to be able to have an intelligent conversation with your
Mm,
subordinates and
right.
understand what they're doing, or you'll lose their respect. And you'll also lose the respect of the big bosses who are looking out for that. Um, or I said, or enjoy opening a coffee shop in your neighborhood or a bookstore. You might, like
Yeah.
a nice lifestyle business or bicycle touring company, or, you don't need to be chasing the latest and greatest, but you want to have a meaningful job.
Mm. Right. Speaking of which, once again, going back to LinkedIn and networking and learning skills, and I recently got a message from somebody saying, "Oh, hi Maya, I read your profile, and it's very impressive. Do you have any jobs for me?"
I get that as well.
You do.
Yeah.
I'm not in the recruiting business, mind you. You are, right? So I
Right.
can understand why people would write such things
Jobs,
to you.
yeah, jobs for recruiting with me,
Yeah, yeah.
job seekers, yeah. And do you get the impression that they really didn't look at your profile? They're just
Right.
scattershot. sending that
Yes.
message. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People
So
need to have better LinkedIn game.
yeah, they do. But just a few tips, if you don't mind sharing here, about how to do LinkedIn. Because, as you mentioned, some people do have bad profiles because they don't believe in the power of the application, of the platform,
Correct.
right? That's
Yeah.
one thing. And there is a lot of power there.
Yeah.
Um,
So I would say for 95% of ambitious and motivated professionals, maybe 99%, you should have a LinkedIn profile and put some effort into, I call it putting meat on the bones. It's this beautiful kind of skeletal piece of real estate where you're able to brand yourself or position yourself in the market. And it's not just for jobs, it's also, if you're a salesperson, you should be on LinkedIn. I mentioned I'm doing a search related to PR, and it's surprising to me how some PR professionals are not fully utilizing the power of the platform when they're supposed to be connected influencers. If they're doing traditional media relations, they
mhm,
just have, contacts at the top media, and they think that that's all they need. Um, but it's a really powerful platform, and there are tons of advisory articles on how to polish your LinkedIn profile. Um, and the things that I say to people is have a nice profile photo. Uh,
mhm.
Use the subheadline to describe how you benefit others, not just what you do, not just your job title and company name. And I think most of the advice, it's kind of centers around the real basics. Look friendly, look approachable. Um, but then you, in your about section, that's really the most important part is put some effort into talking about yourself. And one thing I think is really important, and I could go on for hours about LinkedIn, um, but is write about yourself in the first person. So I
Yeah.
do this, I see people who write in the third person, Gary does this and Gary does that.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
to me, it's an immediate turnoff. And if I'm working with someone, I'll suggest to them, it's like, by the way, you should put it into first person.
Right.
And then put some detail into the jobs you've done, add stuff about skills. Um, and then in your about section, you can keyword stuff them. So if you're looking to pivot your career or move into something that's more where there's more demand, even if you don't have a lot of experience in it, you can say taking a course in digital analytics, or so that's a legitimate use of, it's a proper, it's not a
Right.
lie. And then
Hmm.
I'll find you if I'm keywording on digital analytics.
Right.
So, but there's tons of great information out there on LinkedIn, and it's worth putting the time and effort into. And your LinkedIn profile can always be better. Even my own, I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
I'm in glass house throwing stones. I could always make it better. So it's something worth doing, and that's the visibility part. Um, and then I want to cover if I may, Maya, the third
Yes,
leg
please. Yes.
tripod, which is mindset. And so it's skills, visibility, mindset are the
Hmm.
three legs of the pillar. And we've talked about things related to mindset, but it's that adaptability, always learning new things, being, positive, trying, making an effort, having grit and resilience.
Mm.
Um, and I admit, some days I'm almost paralyzed in fear for our future, and it's technology, it's things happening geopolitically. And it's like, what are we
Mm.
doing? It's energy, water, all these issues we face. And you have to say, okay, well, that's the reality. What can I do as an individual to sharpen myself or add value or position myself in the market where I'm adding value to others or serving others where
Mhm.
value flows back to me. Um,
Right.
but the mental game is really important, because people who are complacent, like the person who doesn't know anything about AI and is not interested, complacency is what's going to cause you to be replaced. So
Mm,
AI is not replacing you. It's the person that can use AI that will replace you.
yeah.
Um, and it's not AI everything. I've been doing a lot of different experiments, and that's one thing I recommend to people is just experiment with it. Not as, chappy that you talk to or you use as a search engine, but do little projects. And even,
Hmm.
old, not super technical people like me, um, I'm doing things with voice agents. I'm doing things with custom
Yeah.
GPT for salary negotiation. Um, and I'm not coding at all, but
Right.
I'm collaborating with people who code. Or for example, this tool that I've created for helping people prepare for, practice, and perform in
Hmm.
salary negotiations in Japan, in a Japanese context. um, I had the idea. I knew I couldn't do it all by myself. I reached out to a Harvard trained negotiation expert,
Hmm.
and he helped me put together this tool that's super useful for people to prepare for can be a difficult conversation. But imagine going in to talk about getting a raise at your current employer, as we were
Right.
talking about, a few minutes ago, or for a brand new job, and going in feeling comfortable, calm, and confident, and understanding how to have that conversation
Mm.
instead of just kind of, I'll take whatever you give me and not be super happy about it. And AI can be very useful for
Right.
preparing or
Yeah.
planning.
I believe that there is that psychological barrier. Many people fear it because they think that it's a very complicated thing to learn. And you don't have to start with the complicated stuff. You can just start with something which is very simple and very easy to do. And it doesn't take that much effort at all, right? And I
Yeah,
personally believe that for anybody who is afraid of that, even starting with ChatGTP is a step, a positive step towards learning more, right? Because
for
you
sure.
understand you understand what the limitations of that AI model are, right? Because there are limitations. You just cannot outsource everything to any single AI platform or software, whatever, right? And once you understand the limitations of each one of them, you can start using the others for other tasks. And that's how the barrier, you get over it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. And even with my salary negotiation tool, there's a very clear disclaimer that says this is AI, and you have to validate that through your own
Hmm.
reasoning and logic,
Right.
and or run it by another human to
Hmm.
get
Yeah.
validation of it, because I don't want people using that tool and going in and saying, if you don't double my salary, I'm going to walk
Right.
away. It doesn't teach you to do that, but you know, you have to
Hmm.
really make sure that what you're getting is the truth.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it is in your particular situation, because everyone's situation is different.
It
Uh,
is different. Yes.
but
Yeah.
it's fun to use. There's so many things you can.
Yes. Yeah.
And back to the skills part, is there's so much free learning tools, so many free learning tools.
Mm.
Claude, Anthropic just released like 5 or 6 different learning modules, from the basics to then using their projects or whatever they call it. Each one of the big LLMs has the same thing under different names. And Google has amazing free learning programs, but they're out there. You have to buckle down and do it.
Yeah.
And one thing that I struggle with people who bought my career Kaizen course. It's there. Here's everything I've learned in 25 years of recruitment. If you spend some time on this, and I have a thing now where at the beginning of every month I say, block out one, and we talked about this last time on your
Right.
podcast,
Yes. Mm.
block out 1 hour per month to work on your career instead of in your job. And if
Indeed.
people
Mm.
have the discipline to do that, just 1 hour a month working on their career planning and action plan for what they want to do in the next 30 days, they'll see a significant benefit in it. But human nature, it's like it's there. I know that Anthropic course on
Mm,
LLMs for beginners is there in my hard drive. I know I have access to it, but you have to put it in your calendar and actually do it and work through the program. You know.
right. Yeah. And I would say also, in addition to that, try something new. I mean, it could be a very small thing. It could be just a game, even, right? Try something new because nowadays I have noticed that when you try new things online, most of them use AI nowadays, right? And
Mhm.
automation, everything. And it could be a lot of fun, and many of them are intuitive, basically, right? So you don't have to go through the mental turmoil of, oh, I have to learn this, I have to learn that. Start with something small that is fun and go from there,
Yes,
because inevitably that fun prompts you to go forward at the end of the day.
absolutely. I last week I built a quiz. So I
Mm-hmm.
use this AI based quiz software to develop a quiz. Are you a future proof marketing leader? And it
Okay.
runs you through questions, and it was fun and frustrating at the same time, because
Mm-hmm.
then you have to figure out how to tweak it. So it gives you, a lot of these AI tools give you 80%, complete. And then it's like, okay, the hardest part is the last 20% to make it really perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's more fun than frustrating. But there are times when you just go, ah,
Yeah, I think that every product that we get from an AI or LLM, it has to be human proved. And that's right. That's what I really want to see more, because nowadays, and this probably sounds as a rant, but I see so many, let's say, LinkedIn posts, articles, and essays, and this and that have been generated by an LLM, which is fine because they look great. But at the end of the day, I have discovered that I have gotten bored or
yeah,
tired of reading all that perfection, right? So I need something that is imperfect to catch
yeah,
my attention and to keep it. I don't know what your view on this is, because once again, it's about human proved content, human proved marketing, if you wish, because
yeah.
you're in that area.
And what works. So I'm always looking at what works, what's
Hmm.
working, what is the LinkedIn algorithm boosting. Um, I haven't been posting much at all on LinkedIn for the last 4 months. I had an accident. I've been injured. Um, so I've kind of let that go. And the algorithm punishes you if you're not
Yeah,
regular.
it does.
Um,
Mm.
so I'm getting back to more regular posting. And now it's like, okay, it's March 2026. What's effective? Excuse me. And I've seen something that's like more raw video, like short videos, but that are rawer, not overproduced.
Hmm.
They don't look like TikTok super polished
Yeah,
videos, but they're just human and raw and with real value. Is getting more attention than the super fancy ones.
yeah.
Um, but again, it's like anything, you can always find an opinion that confirms whatever your own bias is.
Oh,
So kind of,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, do what feels good to you. That's
yeah.
not good advice either. But
Uh,
do what works and do what seems right for you. That's aligned with your values.
yes, that's the point. Probably the sweet spot is there on the intersection of those two.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But still, I also, like you, I tend to lean towards the necessity of human oversight, and the human interaction, of course, with reservations. But still, I can see how nowadays, even in, well, I mean, Tokyo and other places in Japan, people, when there is a networking event in person, people just rush to go there to participate, because we are getting to the point when we see content online, we don't know whether it is the real human talking or whether it is an avatar, right? And we want that human connection still.
Yeah,
So, because of that, I'm quite optimistic about the necessity of the human soft skills. Of course, the
absolutely.
networking and the attentive listening and in person networking.
Well,
So,
and let's hope we all have jobs in the future that empower us to continue, uh, going out there. We're not just sitting in our homes eating out of the nanotech box that prints our food and plugged into the internet. On the topic of being human, so if I may, I'm about to launch an updated website for my recruitment business, and it's
mhm,
the headline is "We recruit future-proof marketing leaders." But I've identified kind of 6 fundamental characteristics of what makes a future-proof marketing leader,
mhm,
and the first of the 6 is human. Human
right.
is the first, top, front and center is human, then AI savvy, then data literate. But also, I emphasize the fundamentals of marketing. And the fundamentals of marketing haven't really changed a lot.
Mm,
It was the 4 Ps, now it's the 7 Ps. But an effective marketer needs to have a really good understanding of the fundamentals. So, it's a fundamentalist
mm,
of marketing. And then the last 2 are the ability to manage diverse teams. So now we have young, old, Japanese, non-Japanese, men, women, different generations thinking about work. And as a leader, you have to be able to manage all those different kinds of
mhm,
people on your team and lead them and earn their respect. And then the last one is always learning and adaptable. And that's the mindset stuff. And as I age, it's like I can't stop and rest on my laurels. I'm learning as much as I can. YouTube University. Um,
YouTube University, yes,
yeah,
yes,
YouTube.
indeed.
It's just amazing what you can learn on YouTube, um, or at least know about. If you want to go deeper, you have to make a bit more of an effort. But it's nice, lean back
Mhm.
education, like going to a
It
lecture.
is very
Amazing.
much so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it is indeed. Now, thank you so very much for all these insights because we are going to be here, I'm sure. And I think that to a very large extent, it depends on us to have our jobs in the future too.
control what you can control. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes. And well, once again, I know that there is a lot of optimism about AI and how AI will be able to do much more than it is able to do now. But well, I mean, the humans are the ones who created AI. And so we should be able to work with it, right? And to
We'll
use
find
it to
out.
our advantage. We'll find out that, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, control what you can control.
Hmm.
Invest your time and effort in upgrading your skills and upgrading your visibility and upgrading your mindset. And that's all you can do. It's the important things that you can do and hope for the best.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, thank you so very much for this. And to everybody who watched us, thank you for your time. If you haven't connected with Gary, please feel free to connect with him on LinkedIn. And of course, I'm sure that there will be a lot of synergies there if you do that. So, again, thank you very much. And I wish you a great midweek, a great
Yes.
remainder of the
Thank you.
week, and
You,
stay human, but be prepared.
all right. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Maya.
Thank you, Gary.
See you later.
See you.